Hey everybody, Adam Savage alongside Grant from our friends at FBFX. How are you, sir?
Yeah, good, thanks. Good to see you.
So good to see you. And we're going to take a walk down memory lane. I love this suit. Tell me what this suit of armor is.
Okay, so this is a Praetorian.
Yeah.
So this is from the original Gladiator
From
film.
the original Gladiator production.
So released about 2000, I think. So this guy's pushing 25 years old now.
Wow.
So this is something we did, seems like forever ago. I remember making it very, very well. We made a lot of these guys.
And I was touching it before. This is vacuum form.
Yes, so this was, we've become known over a long time for using a lot of polyurethane materials,
yes,
sprayed polyurethane, but this is something we did just before we kind of moved on to that technology. So this is kind of vacuum formed ABS. This is from a pre-digital era.
So you're sculpting bucks for every piece of this armor and then pulling ABS over it, which is, ABS is not fun to vacuum form.
No, but it's strong compared to other materials.
Yes,
and,
yes, it cracks a lot less.
Yeah, so these, obviously still had to perform, like a modern suit would in the film, loads of stunt work.
Yeah.
Lots of action obviously in that film. And so you just don't want these things to sort of just split and crack, which obviously is a downside of vacuum formed plastic. So.
Now you said lots of action in the film, which I'm assuming means lots of suits of armor. How many? Do you know roughly how many suits you might have made for Gladiator?
I can't remember exactly. I think in total, it wasn't just these we made. Obviously, we made a lot of others.
Yeah.
I think overall there were probably a couple of thousand suits in the film, but we didn't. I think we did about 800.
800.
And then
you're just vacuum forming for months.
Yeah, which is something we used to do a lot. And then the vacuum forming itself isn't necessarily the big part. If you've ever done vacuum forming, you know that you get sheets of material then with a shape on it that have to be cut out by hand.
Right.
Then each piece has to be kind of linished and hand sanded back.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of individual components that you're kind of hand working and putting together.
Well, and I want to talk to that because you worked with Janty Yates on Gladiator, and she gives you a design charge and says, this is the silhouette that I want. But she's not telling you how to make all these attachments. You then have to go figure out, what is your research process for figuring out how they put these suits together?
Well, exactly that. You look back at how it was done, but then you've got to get a little bit practical about it.
Sure.
So for instance, these guys, these ones, it looks like lorica in the front, and in fact, these are actually joined together.
Oh, they are? Okay.
Vertically.
They
so
don't
these
compress.
won't compress.
So that was like an economy.
That is just to get through the amount of work, and then you figure out, actually, this will be fine for what these guys have to do. And obviously, it does split center, front, and back, and there is adjustment in the back and also in the sides across the shoulders as well.
And when you're talking 800 suits of armor, you're talking thousands and thousands of little attachment pieces.
Yes.
And these aren't necessarily things you can just order in the mail.
No, not always. And then we won't just, even I was looking at these and I think, oh, they've gone rusty. And then I remember, no, they haven't. We made them rusty deliberately when we did it.
That's amazing.
Just so they weren't too bright and gold.
Yeah.
And then just the process of getting these shapes. So, it would be very different how we'd approach this now. But back then, as you say, this started out as a clay sculpt.
Right.
And then in fact, I sculpted it, I think. We would just do the plain forms, the general shapes, and then take GLP molds, cast those out. And then a whole team of people would start beavering away, sanding and sanding and sanding, smoothing everything out. And then we'd start, like model kit, basically work. All of this edging would have been plastistruct.
Right.
Edges all just, positioned and glued on and filled in to get all the details. And then you would remold everything again, cast it all out. And then those pieces that you cast out, we would re-ground up into vac form tool shapes that we can then put into a vac former. And so it was incredibly labor intensive.
And then someone comes in and goes, could you make this just a little pointier?
Yeah, and again, we complain about that nowadays because we're asked all the time, can you just change it? Because everyone's got used to rapid prototyping. Yeah. Right? So in these days, it was quite disastrous,
And this was the rapid prototyping of the day.
Yeah, so this is teams of people like sanding and sanding. And my abiding memory of those days is bleeding fingers.
Really?
You know, just that whole period of when we worked like this, because you don't get a lot of rest, and we worked, you know, fairly often 7 days a week. And you would just lose the skin on your fingers, and because you're wet sanding everything.
Oh, right, right.
And then it's kind of car body filler. So car body filler on, and then sand it off, and on, and sand it off. Now, interestingly, some people have speculated that the FB in FBFX stands for filler bashing.
And that's
I can't confirm that's true, but it's a pretty...
filler bashing is a term of art for just adding filler and sanding it, and adding filler and sanding
exactly.
it?
It would be
I like that. I think that's reasonable. Do you I can tell there's some trauma, but is there some fond memories? What is your emotion seeing this all together?
No, really. I mean, it's 25 years old. You could still shoot on this.
You really could still film with it right away.
Yeah. So, you know, sometimes you see things, you know, that you have kind of rose-tinted spectacles, right? They're kind of, over the years, you remember it fondly, and then you see it for real, and the years haven't been kind. But actually, I think this looks pretty good.
Was there a moment you got to see a whole bunch of the armor either on screen or you were on set and got to see it and was like, oh.
Yeah, these were, for us, they were kind of like the first kind of like really exciting days for us in our career.
Young part of
we get to sort of step on the big set for the battle at the beginning of the film is where we first went on set and took these. And we'd done other characters. We did the Commodus' armor for Joaquin. And so we went...
One of my favorite armors. Love that armor.
And so we get to go on that set, and Ridley's there, and, you know, literally thousands of extras. And it's kind of mind-blowing. You know, I think we were, I don't know, ourselves probably not much more than 24, 25 years old.
My God.
At that point. And
babies.
Yes. So trying to look grown up and doing our very best to keep our straight faces on, like, yeah, we're professionals, we know what we're doing, but actually we're kind of geeking out, you know. So
I'm also curious because the comfort of the actors and the extras is really important. And it's not necessarily in your original design charge, but I'm curious about the evolution of your armor and making it wearable, like making it comfortable for the actors.
I think it's always, actually it has been important to us from the get-go. And I think, so we were speaking about kind of clay sculpting this armor like this back in those days. It's still very much our favorite way of working, if we can, even today. So I think when you're doing that, we had life casts of guys back then, which, you know, now we're, you know, 3D scan a person, mill it out.
It's all
like these are milled stands here. But when we used to take life casts, and then you would sculpt directly onto the life cast of that person. There's something really connected about that approach. You can really feel how much gap you're leaving under an arm, or between, and you just really get a sense of it's going to fit.
Yeah.
Where on a screen, that's slightly trickier to get.
Sure.
You know, on a computer screen modeling up. So, you know, when we can today, we will still do this sculpt. We don't always get the time, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And then 3D scan the clay sculpt, and one, because it gives you that immediacy of feeling the fit, feeling the form on the body.
Right.
But two, you can people can stand around it in a room and stand next to it and get a genuine feel of the proportion that is really difficult to get from just from looking at a screen.
Well, and I'm also sure that, like, you know, you're aware that these things were made by people, so they weren't perfectly symmetrical.
Exactly.
And they weren't like, I mean, and in a computer, it's so easy to just flip, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But that would make it look weird. It would make it look too perfect, I imagine.
Yeah, we've seen that a lot, actually. Things become very clinical looking, you know.
Right.
They look like they're made by machines. So trying to keep that, craftsman-y kind of feel to it. And, you know, especially in a film set in ancient times, right? It's kind of important. So.
Well, I remember Terry English telling me he never uses a ruler to measure rivet spacing because if you go to any museum that has armor, it's clear they never used a ruler to do rivet spacing. It was always by eye, one at a time. And like that kind of thing really is important to communicate.
Yeah. Well.
All right, I want to zoom out now because we go from the 25-year-old Praetorian to the new one. Now, tell me what this is.
Okay, so Gladiator II, we were lucky enough to get approached just to ask if we could kind of redo these guys for that movie, which
Amazing.
seemed, pretty much a no-brainer, really. Like,
yes, we have to.
We had such fond memories of working on this movie.
Yeah.
So here's the reimagining.
He's beautiful.
Yeah, and from a construction point of view, entirely different from
Okay,
this
so no vacuum forming.
No, not a single piece.
This is your spray urethane.
So yeah, these are sprayed urethane, and actually, again, this is digitally sculpted.
Right.
Big change, but I think it's kept a really nice. It's retained a really nice feel of being hand worked.
The edge looks really hand worked.
Yeah, the kind of surfaces are deliberately kind of marked and like they've been tooled still. And that primarily we actually got really good concept models from the team, from Dave Crossman and his team in the costume department for this, which we then got here, and then basically those models are, they're brilliant, but they're for look. So then we have to kind of remodel over the top of those, make sure we capture every detail that they intended so that we can then actually manufacture it.
Is it difficult in the digital realm to add little tiny dents and imperfections like that?
It is a little bit, actually, without it kind of looking wrong.
Yeah.
So there is definitely a knack to it. And I think, in a lot of the areas of this, I think it's been done very, very well.
It really feels very, very, very hand-tooled. And I love the addition of the metallic patina on here. The gold is really gorgeous.
Yeah, so there were a couple of different variants of these done and in different colorways. So this is like an officer version, obviously, with all the gold. Some of the more kind of lower ranking versions were a more monochrome kind of look.
I'm curious about the face.
Yeah.
That's got to be difficult for some actors because it limits their peripheral vision, but also everyone has different sized faces. Did you make maybe several faces to accommodate different?
You would have thought so, but we didn't actually. There was quite a lot of work with the scale of this face and trying different versions, and it's removable, so it's not used all the time in the film.
Oh, okay.
Obviously it's based on like a Roman sporting mask. I think it's pretty cool actually, but
I love it.
Given that these guys fight and ride horses and stuff, they have to be removable because you can't have that all the time. So,
did you guys do or learn anything new about Roman armor and the construction of these that maybe like in the 25 years since, has there been an advancement in archaeology? Is there other stuff that you came across?
It would be great to say yes, but actually the construction maybe is what doesn't differ too much from this. Probably except in ambition. So like I say, the previous one, we kind of nailed a lot of things together for convenience. The speed of manufacture for these is kind of a lot quicker, basically, because the amount of handwork that we were talking about the original one is reduced massively. So we can, lames can be separate, and then,
they're so light.
And then there's things we would never have even attempted to do 25 years ago, which is like the scale, skirts are
the scale. Oh, wow, they're all separate.
Yeah, so these are cast in a soft rubber, and they have like a metal finish in the material, cast into the material. Yeah, and then obviously, so these are safe to fall on, but work correctly as a scale mail.
Oh wow! And they're sewn onto the back.
Yeah, so these are onto a fabric garment. So.
I love also the slight color variances in them. They wouldn't all be the same kind of metal, right? Or they wouldn't all look exactly the same.
No, and the thing is, just that little kind of difference just helps to kind of make it more believable, doesn't it?
How many of these did you make for Gladiator II?
That's a good question. I think somewhere between 60 and 70.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's a period of time when it's like you're an old Roman armor workshop, right? Like there's just pauldrons and breastplates and helmets everywhere for a few weeks.
Yeah, it is, and because you're making it fast, right? So just trying to keep track of all of that. As it moves around the workshop, between the different people doing their own kind of particular things on it. is a challenge itself. And we actually have people who their job is just to
track
of everything.
I can only imagine. This is, I love to talk to people about when you're making something and you have to make many of something, many can always harm you, because if this requires 10 seconds of work times however many, right, it goes exponentially in terms of how much time it takes.
Yeah, and again, I remember we, Jan T, who was a designer, co-designer on the Gladiator II and the sole costume designer on the original Gladiator movie. We've worked with on many movies, and we worked on a film called Exodus, Gods and Kings with her, where she first posed the idea to us that I need hundreds of suits of like functional scale mail.
Oh my gosh.
And at that point, I remember we were thinking, that's just impossible, right? So, but actually, for that film, we did a version of this. It's where we first were thinking, how can you actually do this? Because, as you say,
how can you actually deliver
because
these?
You would be making, literally hundreds of thousands of these scales.
Yeah.
And then trying to assemble them onto things. And it was the precursor to this. So I think without that evolution of jobs, you wouldn't have even dreamed of trying to do this.
Yeah.
But even so, it's a challenge. We had to build specific equipment in the workshop because these are hand cast in strips and then glued onto the fabric garment underneath. You have to, basically the glue is a kind of 12-hour set. So we have to make racks and racks and racks where you just slot them in each garment to allow them to dry flat once people had laid up kind of, the whole kind of brick pattern. You just have to kind of organize specifically to do something like that. You can't just kind of fly at it and hope for the best.
Now, in terms of wearability, when you have completed all the parts of the suit, is there one employee who gets the unenviable task of putting it on while you move it around them and see what fits and what doesn't fit?
It's normally not that hard to find a volunteer, actually.
I would imagine.
Yeah, so it's best fit is normally the person who gets it. So there are a couple of people here who are, we've got, big fit guy.
Right.
Who will get to, if you're
yeah.
going to be the big guy, or if you just need someone, a good normal average size. But
and you take pictures of that also to get approvals and see how it moves and show production how it moves.
Yeah, and it's for us it's important because you need to know if it's going to rub and hurt somewhere. You need someone who's just going to tell you straight away.
Right.
Sometimes even in fittings, you have fittings with stunt people or cast, and they're very polite. They go, "Oh, this is great. It looks great. I'm fine." And you just sometimes when you take a suit like this off of someone at a fitting, you know more than the actual fitting because you're looking for any marks and red marks that are left behind. Guys out there, they'll tell you straight away.
Right. So, and it's I can feel there's some fabric lining on the inside.
Yeah.
You do a lot of things to alleviate rubbing and chafing.
Yeah, you try.
Yeah.
So.
How is it taking a look at these two side by side? This one arrived a couple of days ago, right?
Yeah, I haven't seen it in a long time. So
I'm curious if you have any reaction to seeing 25 years and last week.
I mean, it's weird. I kind of love them both, actually.
Yeah.
I suppose I'm connected to both of them, for different reasons. But oddly, I think even side by side, I can imagine a situation in a movie where you could put both of these in the same movie together, and 100%. I don't think anyone would really bat an eyelid.
Grant, it's such beautiful work, and I just can't say enough lovely things about how beautiful this is, and I'm such a fan of this. I think I have a replica of one of your helmets. not one from your guys' molds, but somebody else's sculpt. It's just such gorgeous work, man. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for watching that video. I would be remiss if I didn't tell you we have some excellent merch. We have a 5-pack of demerit badges for sale right now at tested/store.com. We've got the I hung it off of level demerit badge, the I built the chair backwards demerit badge, the I hit my thumb with a hammer demerit badge. We've got the stapler in my finger demerit badge, and my favorite, I stuck the duct tape to itself demerit badge. Get yours now, tested/store.store. Tested-store. Tested. It's right here. There. Just click there.